Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a new year, and that means a whole new season of Straight Talk IndyCar series. And with that comes a new show that we're calling VRR Unplugged. What this is basically going to be a bit of a talk show, or more of a podcast, if you will, where me and Clayton Hardy are going to sit down and talk about the Straight Talk IndyCar series thus far in the season and what we are looking to expect coming into the next races ahead of it. This is not going to be a super official thing. It's going to be pretty laid back, pretty calm. We might have some drivers here and there come in and speak a little bit, and it should be a lot of fun. So we have currently one exhibition race in the books, which was the Monster Energy Shootout, and we are looking ahead now at Calder Park in not too long from now. So with that, Clayton, what do you think so far of what we've seen and looking at the schedule ahead?
It's interesting, to say the least. Vegas was, I think, a nice little test. Wasn't so nice if you're Ray Taylor or Jacob Dakota. But it was a great show of what VRR's racing package is going to look like. They get to Calder Park, a place that's really wide. You have a lot of lanes that you can run, theoretically. It's really interesting. So, because now you've got the season opener at a track that really is up in the air. I mean, if Calder Park is the way Vegas was by any chance, then who knows who's going to take it?
It's similarly shaped to Vegas, only instead of going left, we're actually going to be going right, correct?
Yes, it is moving clockwise. I believe it's the only oval we're going clockwise on.
I know there's several tracks in the UK and whatnot, but I don't think they can sustain a field as large as the VRR Straight Talk IndyCar series. And that's another thing to note as well. If you didn't see the exhibition race, more cars on the grid this year compared to last year. I believe did we gain 6 for some of these races now? I know it's not a consistent grid, but I think
the grid is now 33. 33 for every race, minus Fontana. Fontana has however many enter.
What was with Indy? I thought that had something.
Indy's still 33.
Okay.
Both Fontana races are open-ended, so 37 I think entered for the one that replaced Yas Marina, and I want to say 38 are entered for the finale.
So with that, you think of compared to what we had last year, we had decent numbers, but nothing quite that large scale, and that, in my opinion, is a good thing. But considering the tracks since it's Fontana, it's a big track, but it's also a packed type of track, and that can be pretty concerning, especially with the way things have gone already, with the flipping and the crashing.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been promising. The thing with Calder Park is that the speeds aren't going to be that high, so I don't see the danger being as high for that. Fontana, I think people are hyping up the spring race to be more than what it's going to be. Part of what made Fontana what it was last year was the fact that it was nighttime, and so there's more grip. Whereas the spring race is going to be in the daytime, and there isn't going to be as much grip. It's going to be colder, but there isn't going to be as much grip. So is there going to be a pack racing? Yeah. I don't think it's going to be as tight-knit, though, as it was at the finale last year, or what it will be at the finale this year. It'll still be impressive. I maintain the idea that the stretch between Fontana Spring Race all the way to Charlotte is probably going to be the best part of the season. but I think what Fontana will offer in the springtime will be a little bit different. A little less hazardous.
And that's always a good thing. I'm thinking the races I'm really looking forward to are Indianapolis, Homestead, and the first Fontana race, because we didn't expect to go there more than once, and then of course the replacement of Abu Dhabi with Fontana got a lot of people excited. Me probably more than anybody else uh, in the whole organization, because I love the racing there. No matter what you put there, road course racing, oval racing, it'll be really interesting to get two looks at that. And like you said, it's two different times of day. However, I feel like that a lot of teams are going to treat it as a bit of a test for the end of the season.
I think so. If nothing, you can't really get any better of a gauge than if you actually go to the venue itself. Um, I, I expect very similar racing from Fontana and Homestead. Um, but given that, I definitely see that it'd be easy to kind of guess that whoever wins Fontana in the spring will have pretty good odds at the finale.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, I think that. Do you think we're going to be seeing people in that first Fontana race doing some experimental things to see, hey, we can't really afford to do this in the finale, but we can do it now, because if things go wrong, we still have a ton of time to recover and get ourselves into a position and go, you know, okay, we can't do that, but maybe this works or something similar to that.
I
Especially
don't,
if it does work out.
I don't think so. Because with the pre-qualifying system, one bad race could set off a chain reaction for teams. Um, you think about the pre-qualifying system that's in place. Top 24 for the first 8 races, I think, was determined by under points. Um, whereas from after Indianapolis onwards, it's based on current driver points. So if you're outside that, if you're floating with that top 24, and with Fontana being as close as it is, there's not going to be a lot of gap in points between anyone. As much as you want to experiment and do something radical there, I think the pre-qualifying system is going to negate that. I think everyone's just going to go with what we know. And I mean, if someone's gonna be brave, it's gonna be one of the teams that have 3, 4 entries. I don't see it being a widespread thing. I think maybe 2 or 3 cars will try to do something crazy. But other than that, I don't see it being. I don't see anything being radically done during the spring race.
Okay. So moving not in the future now, but looking at the past, what I thought aside from the crashes, the Vegas race was fantastic. I kind of want to know your opinion on the event there.
Vegas, I think, surmounted any negative stigma that I'd had after 2011. The racing, it wasn't as intense. There weren't as many cars on the track, so the danger was inherently less. The racing was good. It was good. It was consistent. It was for the most part clean, outside of 3 crashes. I enjoyed it. Now, should it have a spot on the calendar again? Because it had a spot on the calendar last year. Should it have a spot on the calendar again as a points race?
I'd say
I don't think so.
Well, why not?
Because okay, you think about Kentucky and Charlotte. 1.5 mile ovals are going to be offering 2 and 3 wide racing already, more than what Vegas can.
Mm-hmm.
you think about the calendar of how everything's placed. Where would Vegas fit?
True.
Because the final race of the season are Phoenix and Fontana. That's right off the European break, where you go to Mandicourt and Lausitz and Brno and Sarajevo. You can't fit it in there. I don't think you'd want to, because then you'd hurt Phoenix, and Phoenix is going to be fantastic on its own. You don't want to place it near Michigan or Pocono, because then it's going to be overshadowed. You don't want to place it after the Canadian races, because where do you put Watkins Glen?
Yeah.
You don't want to place it after Indianapolis, because then no one's going to care about Las Vegas. Everyone's going to be too busy worried about Indianapolis. So it's a very weird position for Las Vegas. Where do you put it? Do you put it as the start of the American leg? Put it in March? Like, it's hard to rationalize where you put it, because no matter where you put it, you're replacing a track that provides better racing. I think where it's at. I think where it's at as an exhibition, where people can experiment with things for Kentucky and for Charlotte. I think that's the best it can do.
And I'd be okay with that as well. But I personally really like the racing there. I mean, it was. You said that it wasn't a whole lot of. It wasn't very competitive, but I kind of want to disagree. I mean, it was very close racing, and there were some points where it was kind of like, oh, what's going on, but nothing's happening at the moment. But it was a lot more interesting than a couple of races that we saw last year.
I'm going to bring up the stats for the shootout, kind of see exactly how competitive it was. I never really argued with how competitive it was. I mean, two wide racing all the way around was fantastic.
Of course, the battle for the end of the showdown.
Yeah. Okay, you think
also,
about...
Very, very quickly, we are also getting word that we will be able to have an interview with Jamie Ngaire-Jardine soon on this little podcast. So we get to speak to our winner of the shootout. So that'll be cool.
Okay, thinking about how competitive the shootout itself was, not the showdown. The shootout had 23 lead changes between 13 drivers. That's not bad.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it sets the bar a decent amount high. until you compare it to any other oval. Going back to 2016.
You do also have to take in consideration though those races were longer, not by a whole lot, but they still were a bit longer. So
well, that's what I'm going. I'm going to compare it with races that were similar in length. So 225-mile races, 250-mile races, because the shootout was 200.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, Dover was, let's say race 16. I'm having to think based on number. Let's see. I'm looking to see exactly how competitive it was. Oh, Milwaukee. Milwaukee was race 16. I forgot about Milwaukee. Whoops. That report didn't tell me. Okay, never mind. I guess I won't find out because that report didn't have it. Milwaukee is a bad example because it's not even on the calendar and the racing sucked. I'm not gonna miss it. The thing about Dover was crazy. The thing about Kentucky, I mean, it's competitive. Definitely is competitive. You place it beside like St. Pete or whatever, it's gonna blow it away. It just, for me, it's one of those things where compared to the 2 and 3 wide racing that we're going to see at Charlotte and Kentucky, which are sister tracks with Vegas. It's just like, should we fit another one in? That's like, is it required?
Yeah, I mean, considering we do have those tracks that are similar, I am not. It's not crushing my heart to not see it on the calendar. Especially, honestly, it's almost a good thing because too much of a track that's about the same, it just feels like the same. I mean, you look at what NASCAR has; they have, Charlotte, Atlanta, and Texas. It's different as a
Charlotte,
driver.
yeah.
It's different as a driver. It's a bit different as a fan, but the racing, and I know the track sizes are different and banking's different and whatnot, but it's about the
if
same.
you're a casual fan, it's like, okay, this is another
The walls are different.
deal. You think about all the 1.5 mile ovals that are similar: Kansas, Kentucky, Charlotte, Atlanta, Texas, Vegas. That's just the top of my head.
And it's also worth noting there's not really any super unique features that set either of them apart anymore since Kentucky has been repaved. I mean, it's not like the track surface has character.
Kentucky's been altered because the banking between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are different.
Yes, but in terms of speaking on, like, you look at Daytona Talladega, the finish lines are in different places. You look at, other tracks like Charlotte and, I don't know, say New Hampshire. There's
You keep
things
ignoring the best quality. You keep ignoring the best quality of Kentucky, and that is you'll be stuck in the parking lot the next day.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the best part about it.
Well,
if you want to relive it,
by that logic,
if
we
you
should have Martinsville on the schedule because then you'll get run over after the race.
Actually, I'm trying to think of another very secluded place.
Isn't Pocono in the middle of nowhere?
I want to say so, but I don't think so. I think there's at least one huge highway that runs by it. It definitely looks like it's in the middle of nowhere with all the trees everywhere. Let's see. What track on the calendar is in the middle of nowhere? Mendicore is one that's in the middle of nowhere. Let's see. Iowa. Iowa's the next idea.
There are a bunch of tracks where there's just nothing there. You'll be stuck.
There's a reason why people camp out.
There's also a reason why there's some restaurants nearby because it's going to take you a while to get out.
You can walk to the restaurant faster. You can drive it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's outside of the joking aside, as a fan, it's going to be like, okay, Kentucky and Kansas for IndyCar would be miles different. Kentucky, it's craziness. You've got parts of it that are single file. You've got parts of it that are 3 wide. It just depends on where you're at to start. Whereas Kansas, it's more like Pocono, where it's not all 2, 3 wide racing, but more of a strategic race where you're trying to move forward one by one by one, which with 33 cars is going to be crazy. So, like, I can, playing devil's advocate, like, okay, not all 1.5 mile tracks are the same for IndyCar. For stock cars,
which they aren't, but
now for stock cars, throw someone a bone. Yeah, they run pretty similar.
Well,
they run pretty similar. With the exception of Charlotte, they run pretty similar.
They all run. Every track runs pretty similar, though. I mean, if you pay attention, I mean, obviously Martinsville and Bristol are 2 different characters. It speaks on the stock car discussion.
And Dover.
And Dover is a different thing. But honestly, I see that Kansas and Kentucky, at least up until this year, ran a bit different from each other, even in stock cars.
Yeah.
Now with the repave and everything, oh yeah, it's the same thing. There's
And to think that Atlanta's getting the same thing.
Yeah, which is a shame too, because Atlanta always produced some really great racing, and
I'm interested to
I'm
see what
fearing that that's
happens
gonna
with
go
Texas.
away.
I'm interested to see what happens with Texas because they're going through with the repave and the increased drainage system, and they're removing banking.
Yeah, that might actually end up being a bit
That's
interesting, but
I'm actually very interested in that because I have a feeling that's going to help IndyCar and that's going to hurt stock cars. I mean, it could benefit stock cars if they keep with this let's keep reducing downforce idea.
well, I don't think anyone's gonna pay. Nobody's gonna watch anymore, anyways, with the segments. But
And they wonder why the ratings are plotting.
well, obviously it's because it's not complicated enough. Guys. You may not know who I am since this is on the VRR channel. My username is NASCAR Fan 1400, and I'm about done watching the series. So,
F1 fan 44 is about what your name's
well,
going to end
I
up
might as well
being.
just go to Anime Fan 1400.
But yeah, and we keep bringing up Bristol, and we keep forgetting that it's on the calendar this year.
It is,
Uh,
and but
that's gonna be mental.
People would cringe or scream at that, or just have night terrors until the day that the race happens. But you look at the shootout last year; it was actually a very solid race.
It was an extremely solid race. It was good.
Yeah, it was
pretty crazy, but it was good.
There are a few "what are you doings" here and there, but that's Bristol. That's
And
Bristol,
that was
baby.
that was the first public event that the series had done. So yeah, it was gonna be pretty crazy. And it was good.
It was.
Now we're gonna throw 33 people on the track at once and say, voila, here's points.
It might work.
You brought up Martinsville. You brought up Martinsville. I desperately want to see that attempted. I desperately want to see VRR attempt that.
I think that if done, they would probably have to make it heat racing. But if done correctly, I feel like it would be a fantastic event. Because people would say the same thing about Bristol. Because technically, Bristol is. You think about how the straightaways are on that track. It's a little smaller almost than Martinsville. It seems smaller than Martinsville, I should say.
It seems smaller, yeah.
But
I mean, you think about Bristol, it's a bowl, and Martinsville's a paperclip.
Yeah, Martinsville's about a tad, like I think 0.03 miles smaller.
It all comes down to cornering. You think about Bristol, it's got the wide bank corners, whereas Martinsville's almost completely flat and very sharp corners.
I think of Martinsville as a half size, because it is a half size New Hampshire almost.
Yeah, and Bristol's like a half size Dover.
Yes.
And like even with pavement, like even if you look at the pavement, it's the same. Because I was saying about that, I'm just like, did anyone ever connect these dots that Bristol and Martinsville are just like Martinsville and Dover cut in half? Like that's.
You mean New Hampshire and Dover, but yeah.
Yeah, I said Martinsville, didn't I?
It's okay. We said at the beginning it'd be laid back, so.
Yeah, laid back, and neither of us have cursed yet. I am proud.
I know. I'm very, very proud of that. But we did have. This is the 7th take, I believe, because I kept messing up the intro. So look out for a potential outtakes video.
I have a feeling that there's going to be several compilations that by the time the year's over, a crash comp for the season, and an outtakes for what we do.
Several outtakes. Parts 1 through 7.
Of course, I am also predicting that the crash comp for IndyCar is going to be like an hour long.
Yeah. Even if it was just.
And here I am.
Even if it was like music compilation.
Just set up a playlist, like, let's go from one song to the other. And Angel's in charge of that, too.
Should be
Hope you guys like techno.
Well, I'd rather listen
Um,
to a techno-filled um, crash comp than a country song crash comp, so I'll take it. I prefer
and
a
I've just booted up Overwatch for the first time.
hey, look at that. So, yeah, this is how we've been. We might as well, since we're just at it here, we might as well go into how we're recording now. What happens is Angel now runs the races and sends us the video. We briefly touched on this, and I think it was during the red flag of the shootout, or maybe that was yeah, it was the shootout that had the red flag. Because we were having issues with cameras and whatnot. But what that means now is that one, it works out better for us because we don't have lag on Skype and whatnot. So what we've ended up doing now is we actually are on PlayStation chat party on the PS4, and we are talking in a chat room. And what we'll do is we both download the video and we look at it and watch it in sync, and that works out really, really well. And because I just record PlayStation and then convert it to an audio file and plug it in, and that's how that's done. So what that has made the opportunity for us to do is that I've been doing this since the start, and Clayton has just now booted it up. And our potential guest is also playing it right now. So all three people right now are playing Overwatch as we kind of relax and chat. So.
Yeah, I think this kind of being one of my most favorite parts is just doing the unplugged and just sitting back and just talking about things that have happened either before that monthly video, because I'm assuming it's monthly. That's the way it's planned right now. It's monthly between beginning of the season and end of the season.
And of course, special events in between will get their own.
So, Indy, Fontana, that's about it, to be honest. That's the ones I can think of.
I've gone ahead and invited.
If it was my choice, we'd do one for Kentucky because it's the biggest race of the season. But yeah, now
according
that.
according to you.
Well, it's 600 miles. It literally
according
is.
According to literally anybody else. Okay, so I believe we have just had Jamie join into the lobby here. So, can you hear us? Likely setting up the mic and whatnot. Okay.
There you go.
Hey.
There we are.
So this is Jamie Ngaire-Jardine, your two-time back-to-back defending winner of the Monster Energy Shootout, joining us now. And with that comes a lot of questions, I'm sure. So I'm going to go ahead and start off here. First off, how does it feel to know that you have two back-to-back wins on the preseason hype up the series race?
Let's see if she's probably still figuring out her settings.
Perhaps. Oh yes, that would help as well. Make sure that the party settings have your. Oh wait, that doesn't matter actually. Never mind.
More outtakes. Yay.
Not outtakes.
Woo.
No, we started this. Remember, it's laid back. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It's just the intro that bothered me. 7 takes.
So if we do 7 takes every month, it'll be almost 70.
So anyways, Jamie, how does it feel to be the back-to-back defending winner of the preseason race?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to be honest. I know that it's not the sort of the main event, if you will. It's you know, so sort of a little bit of an intro, a precursor to the season, but it's always cool to get off on the right foot and sort of get get the fans, get the crew and the team excited for the rest of the season by claiming a nice victory at the shootout. So
Nice $1 million as well to help out the team.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably gonna come in handy. I'm gonna say.
Trying to think now. You're racing for Polaris now, championship team, at least. That's what it appears to be early on. Is that it's going to be Chevrolet and Ferrari duking it out all year.
Yep.
How comfortable do you feel? We've seen the rules that have been put in place regarding 2018 with teams have to be restricted to 3 full-time drivers. Now, before that rule was in place, you had released a statement saying, things feel pretty comfortable right now. It's starting off good. Now it's like, okay, someone's not going to be on the team next year. How do you feel with how you're driving compared to your teammates? Because it's kind of on the assumption that Steph's not leaving her own team. How are you feeling? How are you preparing for?
I mean,
how that rule change is going to take place?
When a rule like that's introduced, you quite feel 100% comfortable. Sort of when you're driving and you're fighting for a position in a team after a rule like that's been announced. I know that it's gonna up the pressure even more, I think, because especially for a team like Polaris, a championship quality team, I'm gonna go ahead and say that right now. Polaris is at least early season wise or preseason wise seems to be one of the teams to beat. A rule like this being introduced where you have to have at most 3 drivers, it ups the pressure. I don't know quite how to describe it, but you know that, especially with a boss like Steph, you're gonna be critiqued on everything. She's gonna be watching you. She's gonna be making sure that she feels comfortable that the other drivers who will be driving Polaris next year, that's gonna be the team that she feels comfortable going forward with, in a sense.
Yeah. And yeah, that does make sense because you think about Polaris. I think I'm one of many that have said this and meant it. Polaris have 4 people on their team this year that could win a world championship. Steph's already done it. Okay, cool. Steph wants to do it again. You think about Diego. Only raced, I think, 10 races last year. 4 podiums. Dakota got a win. You've got 1 points win on your record, and you've got 2 exhibition wins. At a variety of venues. Your points win was at a road course. You've won at a short oval, and you've won at a speedway. I think being on the outside looking in, it can't be easy because you think about all the teams that were in championship contention last year. Black Rose Racing, Herrera is going to be gunning for it. You think about Lecty. How many she almost topped every practice sheet during preseason. You think about Kenosha seems to be rebounding. You think about everyone. You think about everyone in the team. Then you've got to think about everyone that's not in the team that could be looking for a way in. That's got to be crazy. But I have to ask the question, how confident are you in Polaris' focus on this season? Do you think that they're going to remain focused on this season, and that they're going to remain focused on the drivers, or are they going to automatically just shift their focus to the new rules? Like, how do you think the preparation is going to be for the season?
For a team like Polaris, the focus is always going to be on that year. The new rules, yes, they're going to shake things up, but it's not going to be, dare I say, it's not going to be a huge seismic shift. The focus is for sure going to be on this year, making sure we're competitive, making sure we can fight for those championships, and then in the off season we'll sort of see how the chips fall, see who's done enough to stay with Polaris and see who may have to find another seat elsewhere.
And what I want to ask you... Go ahead, Clayton.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I've already asked too.
What I want to ask you is, how confident are you in yourself? Like, how much of a confidence boost was winning the shootout again? Does it make a difference to you, or did you have any doubts going into this year that are now gone because of this, or did you feel that maybe, I don't think this myself, but do you think that you personally just got lucky there?
No, I'm not gonna say that I got lucky. I'm gonna say that it was a total team effort, because I couldn't have done it without them, and I'm gonna say that it was a learning experience for everyone, and well, I'm confident in my personal abilities and the abilities of my engineers and those of my teammates. Everyone's going to have learned from this. Everyone's going to have gained some experience and figured things out, tweaked things, just it's going to get that much more difficult to be able to run up front for the rest of the season.
Do you think you can, though?
I'm confident I can, yes.
Okay. Clayton, you go ahead now.
A big talking point at the end of last year was how many entries Chevrolet supplying. Bringing up the roster on my computer, you think about the 4 Polaris entries, Big Blue Motorsports, which seem pretty strong, SRF with their 2 cars, then you've got the Upton cars. They're fielding, I think, a third of the field on their own. And Chevrolet's kind of said, okay, you know what, we might have to start implementing upgrades based on priority. Do you think that that's going to affect your team's performance and Chevrolet's performance in general? How do you feel that the delay of upgrades is gonna have an effect on you guys?
On Polaris, I don't feel it's going to have a huge effect, just because of how strong we all are as a group, and sort of how tied together, in a sense, Polaris and Chevrolet are, especially in the Straight Talk IndyCar series. I think overall for the Chevrolet cars, we could see a little bit of separation, possibly. However, I feel like it's going to be up to each individual team to figure out where their strengths lie in terms of the engine, and if one team may not have as much power or torque or the latest gizmo or whatnot, then it's going to force them to work harder to make that gap back up, which means if they do get it, they're going to be another step ahead. So I'm split as far as Polaris is. I'm sure it's not going to make a difference in terms of the Chevrolets in general. It might make a little bit of a difference at first, but I feel like as the races go on, we're all sort of gonna learn how to use the Chevrolet engine to the best of our advantage.
Well, okay. Then. Going into the next few races, what is the game plan for not Polaris as a whole, but for your team? Because we're going to a track next that's for the first points race this season that's pretty similar to Vegas, but is going the other direction. Literally, it's going clockwise. Does that what's your game plan going into that race?
Don't crash. You know, we sort of, you know, especially in the in my garage and the in the 48 garage, we always sort of go in with the game plan of running our pace and constantly trying to improve that pace, and we'll just sort of end up near the front, if not at the front, and if things don't work out, then we'll make the tweaks that we can. We'll work to see what we can do. You know, especially with the first point race going clockwise, I'm sure that's going to be a little bit of a learning experience for not only for us in the 48 garage, but for teams up and down the pit lane. So I can't really place, you know, numbers and exact data. But we're feeling confident. We should hopefully have a strong car, and we'll just sort of see what happens, I guess.
I think something that we've touched a little bit briefly on is Indianapolis. Last year it was a very bad spot for you. Polaris obviously going to be an important factor for you this season. Do you feel comfortable that you'll be able to make the race this year?
Yes. And you, especially with such a tight field, you're never quite 100% comfortable saying straight up yes or no to a question, but I am without a doubt confident that I will be on the starting grid for the Indianapolis 500 this year. It's gonna be a fight to get there, but we've learned from the mistakes of last year. We've done our tests, and we've done our simulations, and we're ready to get out there, and hopefully at the end of the day we'll be drinking the milk in victory lane.
All right, I think we have. I think we've pushed enough info out of you. Clayton, anything else you want to ask?
I'm not. I've got everything I wanted.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jamie. We'll let you get back to getting stuff ready for the first race of the season. Thanks for joining us, and anything you want to say to the fans before we let you go?
You know, it was it was fun being here, fun talking with y'all. Hopefully we can give the fans a good show, and hopefully at the end of the season, the 48 car is going to be standing on the top of the podium. So I guess I'll see you two next time in the broadcast booth, perhaps, or out on the track.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jamie, Ngaire-Jardine, everybody. Two-time and reigning Monster Energy shootout winner and the one-time points race winner last year as well. Thanks again for her joining us. So, Clayton, now that we look towards the tail end of this broadcast here, we're looking at the next 5 races. What do you think we're going to see with each track?
Well, you think about Cotter Park. We've already kind of discussed it. It's going to be a crazy. I think it's going to be a crazy race. If anything, because it's going to be so different. You think about Clark. That's going to be crazy, given the style of the track, how flat it is, how stop and start it is. I think it's going to be interesting. Shanghai, I think it's going to be typical with what we usually see with open world air. But I mean, it's really hard to gauge what Shanghai's going to provide. And then you've obviously got Fontana coming up, round 4, start off the American leg. I think it's still going to be insanity. And probably starts off, I think, my favorite part of the season.
Well, alrighty then. Has there been any rule changes that you want to bring up that we haven't covered already?
I'm trying to think. I'm not sure.
One that I particularly am a bit of a fan of, honestly, is the concussion procedures, the protocol for that. But which essentially a couple drivers missed a test as a result of that.
Yeah, 3 drivers missed Sebring. Stefan Montana, Jacob Dakota, and Ray Taylor missed it. I described it during the shootout, and I guess it's safe to do it again here. The protocol is, say someone's in a severe accident, and that accident registers a certain G-force scale. What it will do is it'll signal to VRR that, hey, this driver has suffered a certain amount of force in this accident, and they will undergo concussion protocol. This protocol does not mean they have suffered a concussion, but what it enforces that, say there's a test. Say there's a test like Sebring. If they're in concussion protocol, they are forced to miss those tests automatically. It's a precaution. And if they do end up having a concussion, they could miss races based on how severe that concussion is. This is new. We didn't have this last year. It was more of if you were hurt and couldn't drive physically. But now it's gone to where, okay, now are you able to competently drive without being reminded of basic tasks behind the wheel? And we, as I said, we've never had this. It's very foreign, and I think it's going to really help keep drivers safe, because now it's making sure that, we're not going to put someone who is disoriented or someone who is not feeling well behind the wheel, because we know that as drivers they're going to get in the car no matter what. There's a championship on the line and they want it. So I think I think this is a fantastic idea. I think I agree with you that it is an amazing addition. Um, and I'm interested to see if there's actually more to the protocol than what it is than just for concussions. Um, because we know it as a concussion protocol, but I want to see if there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I agree. I like you said, for the reasons you stated, is why I like this so much. A lot of people might be like, well, what the heck? If they don't have a concussion, then why are they sitting out? It it's better to sit out some test sessions than potentially go in. It turns out you do have a minor concussion, get into another accident in the test session, and then really hurt yourself. Um, and it's for that reason that I am a major supporter of the rule, the protocol. I am very glad that it became a thing, and I would not be surprised if there are a bit, like you said, a bit more to it, with more than just concussions and whatnot. And I would be a supporter of probably everything extra that might be considered being added into. Um, because it's something that needs to be had. I mean, safety comes before competition. So
Yeah. Um, yeah. It's good to see something like that implemented to where drivers are being looked after appropriately. VRR was very laissez-faire about it last year. Think about all the injuries that were received. Um, Drivers like Sakura who suffered concussions and broken wrists and stuff like that, but were able to continue driving. I think it's good being able to actually hold VRR responsible now for drivers' injuries and making sure that they don't compromise the entire field because of it. It's 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 promising. I like it. I think another rule that I enjoy um, is more attributed to the track itself. It's the tire rules. You think about the different tires and the grip and how many pit stops you have to make. Um, I feel like if VR is able to get that down with some tracks that are normally boring, like Mid Ohio, might actually be very entertaining. That is one that I'm looking forward to looking at, is seeing, how different these compounds are going to be for the racing compared to what it was last year.
yeah, I agree. I think that we're entering a new uh, era, 1 year, second year in, but I think it's a good one. I think we're going to be looking at a lot better season. Not to say that last year's was bad in any way, shape, or form, but I think it's just going to be much better this year. And there's going to be a lot closer racing, a lot more interesting racing, and just a lot more to talk about, which is a reason why we actually have this. But with that said, just under an hour in, I think that will conclude our first VRR Unplugged. Anything you would like to say before we go ahead and sign off, Clayton?
Um, I look forward to doing more of these. I look at this as more of a measuring stick, see what we're talking about. By the time the year gets close to the ending, it's going to be interesting to look back and see, what were we excited about before, and how did it turn out? I'm excited for this.
I am too, and don't forget you can catch anything and everything VRR on the thread. Uh, for Straight Talk IndyCar series on GT Planet. You can also see any videos that we run, including the full season for the 2017 Straight Talk IndyCar series, as well as races for the Coca-Cola Truck Series. All that can be found on the YouTube page, which is the same page that you are watching this video on right now. So go ahead and click our channel. Don't forget to subscribe. And with that being said, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you all at Rapuna.